Somewhere on this planet, right now, there is a bird whose feathers scatter sunlight the way a prism does, throwing colors into the air that no painter has ever managed to mix. There is a bird with a tail longer than a grown man is tall. There is a bird born plain and gray that slowly turns pink from the food it eats. And a bird whose face is a patch of bare, glowing blue skin so vivid that scientists once assumed the photographs had been faked. These are not fantasy creatures. They are not digital art. They are not the invention of some studio. Every single one of them is alive today, feeding, flying, and raising young in forests and coastlines and mountainsides scattered across the real world. Over the next half hour, we are going to travel across 4 continents and dozens of ecosystems to meet 15 of the most impossibly beautiful birds on Earth. Some you may recognize. Most you have probably never truly looked at, and by the time we reach the final one, you will understand why generations of explorers risked disease, distance, and their own lives just to lay eyes on creatures like these. So settle in. The world is far stranger and far more beautiful than we usually give it credit for. Let us begin. Number 15. The Bohemian waxwing. From the boreal forests of Scandinavia, Russia, Canada, and Alaska, it looks less like a wild animal and more like something carved from smoke and firelight, and at first glance, it seems almost understated. Its body is a soft, warm cinnamon gray that shifts subtly in the light, blending toward pale peach at the head. But look closer, and the details begin to appear. A sharp black mask runs across its eyes like a bandit's disguise. A pointed crest rises from its head, giving it a permanent expression of elegant surprise. And then there is the feature that gives the bird its name. On the tips of its wing feathers sit tiny droplets of brilliant, waxy red, as if the bird had dipped its feathers into molten sealing wax. These are not colored by pigment in the usual way. They are formed by flattened extensions of the feather shaft, and their exact purpose is still debated by biologists, though many believe they signal maturity and quality to potential mates. Waxwings live almost entirely on berries, and this leads to one of the strangest facts about them. In late winter, when berries begin to ferment on the branch, the sugars turn to alcohol. Flocks of waxwings have been documented gorging on these fermented berries and becoming visibly intoxicated, flying clumsily and occasionally colliding with windows. Some towns in the north have reported entire flocks appearing drunk on the same afternoon. Beautiful and just a little bit reckless. There is another side to the waxwing worth knowing. It is what scientists call an eruptive species, which means it does not follow the same neat migration route every year. Instead, when the berry crop fails in its northern range, huge numbers suddenly push far south in search of food, appearing in places that may not see a single waxwing for years at a time. So in some winters, a town might be visited by a swirling, whistling flock of hundreds. The next winter, nothing. That unpredictability only adds to their mystique. You cannot plan to see them. They simply arrive, strip a rowan tree bare in an afternoon, and vanish again. Number 14. The northern cardinal. Found across the eastern United States, it is a bird many people see without ever quite registering how extraordinary it is, so common in gardens that it has become almost invisible through familiarity. But strip away that familiarity, and what you have is astonishing. The male is a vivid, saturated red from crest to tail, the kind of red that seems to burn against a background of winter snow. His face is marked by a sharp black mask around a heavy, cone-shaped oranged beak built for cracking seeds. That red is not just decoration. It comes from pigments called carotenoids, absorbed from the seeds and fruit the bird eats. A brighter male is, quite literally, advertising that he is well-fed and healthy, which is exactly what a female is looking for. The females themselves are a warm, subtle brown washed with red along the wings and tail, an understated beauty that is arguably just as lovely in its own right. Cardinals do not migrate. They hold their territory all year, which is why you will see that shock of red even in the dead of a snowbound January. They are so beloved that 7 different US states have chosen the cardinal as their official state bird more than any other species. When you see one land on a bare branch in the middle of a grey winter, it is impossible not to stop and stare. Number 13. The paradise tanager. From the rainforest canopy of the Amazon basin, across Peru, Brazil, Ecuador, and Colombia. It seems to have been assembled by someone who could not decide which colors to leave out, so they used all of them. It is small, only about 14 centimeters long, but it packs more color into that tiny frame than seems physically possible. Its head is a glowing, almost fluorescent lime green, so bright it looks lit from within. Its back is deep velvet black. Its chest and belly are a brilliant turquoise blue, and its lower back blazes with a band of scarlet red fading into yellow. Green, black, blue, red, and yellow, all on a single bird no bigger than your palm. What makes this even more remarkable is how the tanager lives. It moves through the treetops in fast, chattering flocks, often mixing with other tanager species to form roving bands of color that sweep through the canopy in search of fruit and insects. High in that green cathedral of leaves, where light comes down in scattered shafts, these birds flash like living jewels. For many birdwatchers, glimpsing a paradise tanager in the wild is a lifelong dream, precisely because it looks too vivid to be real. Number 12. The flamingo. Found on lakes and lagoons across Africa, the Americas, and southern Europe. It is a bird everyone thinks they know, and yet almost no one knows the truth about. The flamingo is famous for one thing above all: it's pink. But here is the secret. Flamingos are not born pink. They hatch a dull grey, sometimes almost white. Their spectacular color is something they eat their way into. Flamingos feed on tiny algae and small crustaceans like brine shrimp, and these foods are packed with pigments called carotenoids, the very same family of pigments that make carrots orange and tomatoes red. As the flamingo digests them, the pigments are deposited into its growing feathers, gradually turning them shades of pink, coral, and even deep red, depending on the diet. A flamingo kept on the wrong diet will slowly fade back to white. In a very real sense, you are looking at what the bird has eaten. Then there is the posture. Flamingos famously stand on one leg for hours, even while sleeping. For decades, this puzzled scientists, but research suggests it actually requires almost no muscular effort. The standing leg locks into a stable position that the bird can hold passively, which may help conserve body heat that would otherwise be lost through a leg standing in cold water. Standing in vast pink flocks that can number in the hundreds of thousands, flamingos transform entire lakes into shimmering seas of color visible from the air. Those enormous gatherings are not just for safety. Flamingos are intensely social birds, and they perform group courtship displays in which dozens or even hundreds of individuals move together, snapping their heads from side to side in unison, flapping their wings, and marching in tight, synchronized ranks. It looks almost choreographed, a mass ritual that helps the whole colony come into breeding condition at roughly the same time. And the extremes they endure are staggering. Some flamingos live and breed on harsh soda lakes, so caustic and salty that almost nothing else can survive there. Waters that would burn human skin, feeding on the very algae that turn those lakes a strange otherworldly red. Number 11. The Atlantic puffin. From the cold North Atlantic, nesting on cliffs from Iceland and Norway to the coasts of Britain and Canada. It trades tropical flamboyance for something quieter and, in its own way, just as charming. People call it the sea parrot, and one look at that face explains why. During the breeding season, the puffin's bill erupts into brilliant bands of orange, red, and slate blue, framed by pale grey cheeks and a small, sorrowful-looking eye. But here is the twist that few people realize. That famous colorful bill is partly temporary. After the breeding season ends, the puffin actually sheds the brightly colored outer plates of its beak, leaving a smaller, duller bill for the winter months at sea. The dazzling face is a seasonal costume, worn only when it matters most for attracting a mate. Puffins are astonishing in other ways too. They are superb swimmers, using their wings to essentially fly underwater in pursuit of small fish. And they can carry an incredible number of fish crosswise in that specialized beak at once, sometimes a dozen or more, held in place by a rough tongue and backward-facing spines on the roof of the mouth. They spend most of their lives far out on the open ocean, coming to land only to breed, digging burrows in the cliff-top soil where they raise a single chick each year. Number 10. The Gouldian finch, from the tropical savannas of northern Australia. It carries so many colors it is often simply called the rainbow finch, and it looks almost like a child's drawing of a bird, colored in with the brightest crayons in the box. Its breast is a rich purple, its belly is a vivid golden yellow, its back and wings are a deep grass green, and its head can be black, brilliant red, or, more rarely, golden yellow. Those different head colors are one of the most fascinating things about the species. In the wild, most Gouldian finches have black faces, a smaller number have red faces, and the yellow-faced form is genuinely rare. Remarkably, studies have found that these color forms behave differently and even prefer to mate with their own kind. A hidden layer of complexity beneath all that beauty. Sadly, the Gouldian finch tells a harder story too. Once found in enormous flocks across the Australian north, wild populations have declined dramatically, and the species is now considered endangered in its natural range, threatened by changes in fire patterns and grazing that affect the grass seeds it depends on. Ironically, it thrives in captivity, where it has become one of the most popular cage birds in the world. Millions exist in aviaries, while the wild bird that started it all clings on in scattered pockets of the outback. Number 9. The Victoria crowned pigeon. From the forest floors of New Guinea. It looks like royalty, and its name reflects it. This is the largest pigeon on Earth, a bird so big it is roughly the size of a turkey, standing up to 75 centimeters tall. Forget every mental image you have of a scruffy city pigeon. This is something else entirely. Its body is a deep, dusky blue-gray. Its chest glows a rich maroon. Its eyes are a startling ruby red, and on top of its head sits the feature that gives the bird its name. A magnificent, lacy crest of feathers spread out like a delicate blue fan, each feather tipped in brilliant white. The effect is so refined, so ornamental, that the bird was named in honor of Queen Victoria herself. Despite their size and grandeur, these pigeons are gentle, ground-dwelling birds, foraging quietly for fallen fruit and seeds, and flying up into the trees, mainly to roost and to escape danger. Their beauty has, unfortunately, made them a target for hunting and for the pet trade, and habitat loss across New Guinea has put pressure on their numbers. To stand in the forest and watch one of these enormous, crowned birds walk calmly past is to feel like you have stepped into another age of the world. Number 8. The Keel-billed toucan. From the tropical forests of Central America and northern South America, from southern Mexico down to Colombia and Venezuela, it is defined by a single, unmistakable feature: an enormous, rainbow-colored beak, and it is the national bird of Belize. Its body is mostly black with a bright yellow throat, but all anyone ever remembers is that beak. The bill can be around a third of the bird's total length, and it is splashed with green, orange, red, and blue, like someone painted a sunset onto it. You might assume such a huge beak would be heavy, but it is astonishingly light, built from a spongy, honeycombed material of keratin over a network of thin, bony struts, strong but nearly hollow. It is a marvel of natural engineering. That beak is not just for show. Toucans use it to reach fruit on branches too thin to support their weight, plucking food from a distance. It also works as a tool for tossing food into the air and catching it, and research has shown it plays a surprising role in temperature control, letting the bird dump excess body heat by adjusting the blood flow to the beak, almost like a radiator. Toucans are social, noisy birds, croaking and rattling through the canopy in small flocks, and few sights in the tropics are as instantly recognizable. Number 7. The scarlet macaw, from the rainforests of Central and South America. It is the classic image of a parrot in glorious full color, one of the largest parrots in the world, stretching up to about 85 or 90 centimeters from head to the tip of its long, tapering tail. And it is impossible to miss. Its plumage is a blaze of brilliant scarlet red across the head, chest, and back, giving way to bands of bright yellow and deep blue along the wings, with that spectacular red tail trailing behind. When a pair flies overhead, screeching, against a blue tropical sky, the effect is genuinely breathtaking. These are intelligent, long-lived birds. In the wild, they can live for several decades, and in captivity, some have reached well beyond 50 years of age. Scarlet macaws form strong, lasting pair bonds, often mating for life, and pairs are frequently seen flying wingtip to wingtip, so close they almost touch. They gather at exposed riverbanks known as clay licks, where dozens of macaws and other parrots come to eat mineral-rich clay, thought to help neutralize toxins in the seeds and unripe fruit they consume. The sight of a clay lick, covered in red, blue, and gold parrots, is one of the great spectacles of the Amazon. Number 6. Wilson's bird of paradise, from just 2 small islands in the Raja Ampat region of Indonesia. It may be one of the most extraordinary creatures on this entire list, and it comes from one of the most remote places on Earth. The male is so bizarrely, impossibly beautiful that when the first specimens reached Europe, some naturalists struggled to believe they were genuine. Start with the head. The crown of the male is not covered in feathers at all. It is bare, turquoise blue skin, so vivid it appears to glow, crossed by fine black lines that look almost like a drawn pattern. Below that, the bird wears a cape of scarlet on its back, a shield of deep green across its chest, and a bright yellow mantle around the neck. And then there is the tail, 2 long, curling violet feathers that spiral outward in perfect matching curves, like a signature written in the air. But the beauty is only half the story. The male clears a patch of the forest floor, meticulously removing every leaf and scrap of debris to create a clean stage. Then, when a female arrives above him, he performs. He puffs out that green chest shield into a gleaming disc and dances, showing off his colors from the best possible angle. Scientists have even discovered that his bright plumage is arranged to look its most spectacular, specifically from the female's viewpoint looking down. Everything about this bird, down to the geometry of its display, has been shaped by millions of years of one thing: the demanding taste of the females who choose. It is worth pausing on just how remote this creature is. Raja Ampat sits at the far western edge of New Guinea, a scatter of islands ringed by some of the richest coral reefs on Earth, reachable only by boat and a great deal of patience. For most of history, the outside world knew this bird only from a handful of trade skins, their bare crowns and curling tails so improbable that they fueled arguments among naturalists about whether nature could really produce such a thing. It took until the modern era of film for the wider world to finally watch a living male clear his stage and dance. Sometimes the most beautiful things on the planet survive precisely because they are so hard to reach. Number 5. The rainbow lorikeet. From the eastern coast of Australia. It proves that you do not have to travel to a remote island to find astonishing color, a common sight in noisy flocks descending on flowering trees in suburban gardens. And yet, familiarity has not dulled its beauty one bit. Its head is a deep, inky blue. A collar of bright green wraps the back of its neck. Its back and wings are grass green, and its chest is a flaming mix of orange and red, sometimes edged with yellow and blue on the belly. It is, quite simply, a flying rainbow, and it makes no effort to hide. What is less obvious is how this lorikeet feeds. Unlike most parrots that crack seeds and nuts, the rainbow lorikeet lives largely on nectar and pollen. Its tongue is tipped with a cluster of fine, brush-like structures, sometimes called a brush tongue, which it uses to lap up nectar from deep inside flowers. This makes it an important pollinator as it moves from bloom to bloom. Loud, acrobatic, and endlessly energetic, these birds hang upside down, squabble over the best blossoms, and fill the Australian air with their chatter, a reminder that spectacular beauty can also be part of everyday life. Number 4. The Crested Argus, from the mountain forests of Vietnam, Laos, and Malaysia. This rare pheasant holds a world record almost no one has heard of. It possesses the longest and largest tail feathers of any wild bird on the planet. The central tail feathers of a male can grow to nearly 2 meters in length and around 13 centimeters wide, dimensions unmatched anywhere else in the bird world. At rest, the bird can seem almost drab, cloaked in brown and grey. But those muted tones are patterned with countless small pale spots, scattered like a field of stars across the plumage, which is exactly why it earns its poetic local name as the star-tailed bird. On the head sits a fine crest of feathers, and the whole effect is one of quiet, understated majesty rather than shouting colour. The true spectacle comes during courtship. The male clears a display arena on the forest floor and, when a female approaches, throws that enormous, star-flecked tail up and forward into a vast, shimmering fan, transforming himself into a living wall of patterned feathers. Because it lives deep in dense, remote forests and is naturally shy, the Crested Argus is rarely seen, and it is now threatened by hunting and the steady loss of its forest home. It is one of Southeast Asia's best-kept secrets, a bird most people will never know exists. Number 3. The Indian peafowl, native to the forests and farmland of the Indian subcontinent. The bird we casually call the peacock needs almost no introduction, and yet its most famous feature is one that most people describe incorrectly. It is the source of perhaps the most iconic display in the entire animal kingdom. The male is a deep, glossy blue across the head, neck, and breast, crowned with a small fan of feathers. But everyone remembers the train. Here is the detail that surprises people. That magnificent, shimmering fan is not the peacock's tail. It is formed by greatly elongated feathers that grow from the lower back, called upper tail coverts, which lie over the true, much shorter tail. Those coverts can be well over a meter long, and each one ends in a glittering eye spot, an ocellus ringed in blue, bronze, and gold. And the colors themselves are a trick of physics. Much of the peacock's shimmer is not pigment at all, but structural color, created by microscopic crystal-like structures in the feathers that bend and reflect light, producing that metallic, ever-shifting iridescence. When the male raises his train, spreads it into a towering fan of 150 or more eye spots, and shivers it so that the whole thing trembles and shines, he creates one of the most overwhelming visual spectacles in nature, all in service of convincing a watching female that no other suitor comes close. And that train comes at a real cost. It is heavy, it is unwieldy, and it makes the male more visible to predators and slower to escape them. For a long time, this puzzled biologists, because natural selection should punish such an obvious handicap. The answer is that the very burden is the point. Only a genuinely fit, healthy male can grow and haul around such an extravagant train and still survive. So the females who prefer the biggest, most symmetrical fans are, in effect, choosing the strongest fathers for their chicks. Each year, after the breeding season, the male sheds the entire train and grows a fresh one, meaning that this staggering display is rebuilt from scratch over and over for a single purpose. Number 2. The golden pheasant. native to the mountain forests of central and western China. It looks like it was dipped in molten gold, so vividly colored that it seems almost unreal, and it has become a favorite in parks and aviaries around the world. But its true home is the dense, rugged undergrowth of Chinese hillsides, where surprisingly, it can be remarkably hard to spot. The male is a masterpiece of contrast. A silky, golden yellow crest sweeps back over its head. Its face, throat, and underparts glow deep scarlet. Across the back of its neck lies a cape of golden orange feathers, barred with black, which the bird can fan out sideways during courtship like a raised collar. Its back shifts from green to gold, and its long, elegantly barred tail can make up more than half of the bird's total length. The female, by contrast, is a plain mottled brown, superbly camouflaged for sitting on a nest among fallen leaves. An important reminder that in the bird world, dazzling color is usually the male's burden, worn to compete for a mate, while survival often favors those who can disappear. When a male golden pheasant steps out of the shadows into a shaft of sunlight, however, that blaze of red and gold looks like a small fire moving through the forest. Number 1. The common kingfisher, found across Europe, Asia, and North Africa. It is small enough to fit in the palm of your hand, yet it holds its own against every giant and every extravagant showman we have met so far. A tiny, dumpy bird with a short tail and a long dagger-like beak, dressed in colors that seem to belong to a coral reef rather than a riverbank. Its back and the top of its head flash a brilliant, electric blue that can look almost turquoise or deep cobalt, depending on how the light strikes it, while its underparts glow a warm, burnt orange. And here, once again, physics plays the leading role. The blue is not made by any blue pigment. It is structural color, produced by the way light scatters off the microscopic structure of the feathers, which is why the shade seems to shift and shimmer as the bird turns, catching the sun like a spark flying low over the water. The kingfisher is also a formidable hunter. It perches motionless above clear, slow-moving water, then plunges headfirst in a blur, seizing small fish in that sharp beak before returning to its perch to swallow them headfirst. It must catch and eat many fish every single day just to survive. Fast, jewel-bright, and easy to miss unless you know to look, it is a perfect note to end on. Proof that some of the most breathtaking beauty on Earth is hiding in plain sight, right beside an ordinary stream. So there they are, 15 birds, from the drunken waxwings of the northern forests to the pink-fed flamingos, from the bald-headed dancer of a remote Indonesian island to the star-tailed ghost of the Southeast Asian mountains, and finally to a tiny blue spark hunting above a quiet river. Every one of them real. Every one of them alive on this planet right now, at this very moment. We often imagine that to see something truly magical, we would have to travel to another world. But the truth is that the strangest, most beautiful creatures imaginable are already here, sharing this single planet with us, most of them quietly getting on with the business of living while we barely notice. All it takes is the willingness to stop and to actually look. If you made it all the way to the end, tell me in the comments which of these 15 birds amazed you the most, and which one you had never even heard of before today. And if this journey made you see the natural world a little differently, consider subscribing, because there is always another corner of this planet and another impossible creature waiting to be discovered.